So one of the things that I think impacts the view is that there is a mythology that exists in the American mindset, and that mythology is around the term middle class, right? I forget who it was, but I once read where, the problem in America, the reason that there hasn't been a class war, a revolution in America, is because Americans don't see themselves as the dispossessed poor. Rather, they see themselves as failed millionaires. And so poverty carries with it a lot of stigma in the United States, particularly because of the images that are associated with poverty that generally come from third world countries, such as those in Africa, as well as those in Southeast Asia, right?
Hmm.
And because of those images, Americans are very loath to view themselves as such. And so there's this ideal of the middle class, which has very little to do with the actual amount of money or assets or access to resources that an individual may have, and more to do with how they envision themselves, right? And so quite often, uh, there are many people in the United States who identify themselves as middle class, although economically they fall squarely in the low income or impoverished category. And so, because of this, it allows government officials to, to very much slide over, to glaze over, and to even avoid the issue altogether. I'm not sure how much folks overseas have been watching the debates, but you'll note that there was no discussion about poverty, although poverty in the United States is a huge problem. And the reason they were able to skate over that issue without a lot of pushback is primarily because the American public does not view itself as being impoverished on an individual basis, and as a collective. Our eye is always on the fact that America is, quote unquote, the richest, most productive country in the world. And so, by aligning ourselves with that ideal, we can take comfort in that piece while at the same time denying the very real fact that there are significant numbers of people across the United States who are having a problem feeding their families regular meals. So, poverty is a very real, a very strong issue. And I think what is necessary is not so much from either candidate, as I find it highly unlikely that either candidate nor their supporting parties will ever, anytime in the near future, take on poverty as a real issue, but that it is incumbent upon folks like myself and others, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. I think Lucas, Lucas Benitez down in Florida, who are working with impoverished communities to bring the problem to the forefront. And so I think one of the things that is occurring, although not in the media, is that there is very much starting to be a movement in the United States to push this idea of poverty reduction, and fighting poverty to the forefront of conversations. And so we'll begin to see it certainly more at the local level. And hopefully by the time of the 2016 2020 presidential elections, should we last that long, um, more of a discussion of poverty, but not because either of the parties decide to take on that conversation, but because the populace as a whole forced the conversation onto the table.
Um, this is